Running our own business isn't easy, and it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And on Scale Up Radio, we aim to help make things just that little bit easier by interviewing guests who have been where you are now, regardless of where you are on the scale up journey, and maybe facing some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked well for them, as well as what didn't, of course. And we've also combined many of these lessons into a practical scale-up handbook called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And there's details of this at the end of the episode. So welcome to Scale Up Radio.
Hello, Flo Broughton. Welcome to Scale Up Radio. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, I'm Flo Broughton. I'm actually known as the Chief Chocolate Lady, and I'm from a company called Choc on Choc.
Chief Chocolate Lady. Wow, what a fantastic title. Please tell us more.
Well, we take ourselves seriously in chocolate, but we don't like to take ourselves too seriously. So I run the business with my dad, who is a great partner to work with. And every day is a fun day, and every day involves chocolate. And really, that's what I do all day long, is come up with ideas in chocolate and then make them in chocolate. So it's a good name to have. I particularly like being the Chief Chocolate Lady.
Creating ideas in chocolate every day. Wow. So you run the business with your dad. Tell us about it. How big are you? How long have you been going?
So we are actually celebrating our 20 years this month. So we started back in 2003. And I just finished university and was 24. And my dad, I'm sure he won't mind me telling you, was 60. And so yes, we've been doing it for a very long time. I've never really had a proper job. I'm completely self-taught. And now I think I'm probably completely unemployable. But Dad and I enjoy bringing things to life that you wouldn't expect to see in chocolate. And when we started, it was completely kind of a new thing in the industry. And a lot of people questioned what we were doing, and we're like, oh, you can't make chocolate like that. But because we're artists, we used the chocolate as another form, another medium. And that meant that we weren't constricted by the rule book of how you should make chocolates, where everyone else is making truffles or shapes. We were really thinking very differently and very artistically, I suppose, as to how to do it. So that's where we originally started back in 2003.
Wow. An artistic approach to chocolate creation. Lovely. Well, give us a bit more understanding. So what does that mean? How do you bring it to life?
So the first product we ever made was actually chocolate noughts and crosses. So we were thinking of chocolates that you could take to a dinner party that wasn't just a box of truffles. That was very much what was on the market at the time. We wanted to make something a bit more fun. We thought that would be quite a fun after dinner game. And at the same time, I just finished a graphic design degree at Bristol UE, and I was making handmade cards. And with a handmade card, there's a lot of work that goes into it. They're very beautiful and they sit on your shelf. And then after a while, you feel guilty, but you do throw it away. And so the idea with our chocolate was that we could put messaging onto the chocolates to create a chocolate for an occasion or for a personality, which is really what you're doing when you choose a card. Only this time it had a 12-month shelf life, so you could look at it for a year, but then you could eat it at the end in the hope that you got another one for your birthday that was just around the corner. So that's kind of where the business started. That's how it started. And we decided to sell into the gift market rather than the chocolate and food market. So we didn't go and approach delis and food shops. We actually went to all these boutique gift shops where you would have all these lovely things. And people didn't know they were looking for chocolate. Whereas specifically, if you put it into a food environment, you're going in there to buy a piece of food. You're typically buying something nice in the deli, maybe some lovely pasta and something else and some cheese. And you're not really thinking, I want to make a chocolate purchase for your friend. But when you go to a gift shop, you're very much in the mind of making a gift purchase. And what we love about what we do is that people often don't realize it's chocolate initially, and they just resonate with the design. And then they go, oh my goodness, and it's a piece of chocolate. And they love chocolate. And so that's kind of how the business has grown over the years. And anything that I want, we've made in chocolate, and that's about 500 plus things.
Wow. I'm just interested in terms of the gift marketplace. Was that something you decided right from the very beginning, from the concept, or is it something that came along as you evolved a bit?
No, so right from the beginning. And Dad had just finished a business that he previously had, which was the hedgehog boot wiper, which he designed in the early 90s. And it had a Bristol body and a cast iron head. And he sold them all over the world and went outside your front door and you cleaned your boots on it. And he sold them to the gift market, to the general trading, to all of those kind of shops back then. And so he really knew that as a market space and said, let's just go and try it there. I've got a friend who's exhibiting. Should we borrow a table on his stand? So we went to the autumn fair at the NEC, the delightful NEC. And we took a little table and we had 12 designs that we'd first created. And people were kind of blown away by it. We got an order from Harrods, we got an order from John Lewis, we got into conversations with people that in our wildest dreams we hadn't anticipated. And we were so different. We were the only people selling food at this gift fair. Now, a lot of people sell food. And, I don't like to, that sounds like I'm sort of showing off, but not at all. I think we introduced to the marketplace a different idea that you could actually have food in the gift sector. And only in the last 10 years has it actually become, so with stores like John Lewis that we deal with, they actually have a gift food buyer and a gift food area. Whereas before it was always just called like confectionery and things like that. And now it's called gift food. And so we went to these shows, and then over the years, other brands have crept in, similar to us, and so on. And obviously, there's plenty of room for all of us. So it's been interesting to watch the market change and the exhibition environment as well, and more people with food coming forward with their ideas.
So you've actually potentially created the marketplace in terms of some of your creations and driving that forwards. Wow, fascinating. Really interesting thought there, definitely. So, chocolate, gifts, what makes you different, do you think? What do you strive to be best at then?
Well, we are all about the design. So if you think about back to even 10 years ago, but 20 years ago when we started, there used to be probably a chocolate football boot made out of chocolate. It was pretty naff. It didn't taste very nice. It was probably worse than advent calendar chocolate. That kind of chocolate. It just doesn't kind of taste very nice. And when we started, obviously we had to persuade people that our chocolate actually tasted good. And so right from the onset, we worked with a really high quality chocolate. We used Barry Callebaut. And we always wanted a percentage that everybody would eat, because it's all very well going for connoisseurs, but then that market might be quite niche. And 20 years ago, it would have been extremely niche. Now everyone is a connoisseur in something, be it wine, chocolate, you name it, everyone's got a thing. And so we wanted everybody to enjoy it, and we didn't want to limit our creativity. So the chocolate percentage is very manageable, is the phrase I would use. So the dark is 53%, the milk's 35%, and the white's 28%. And all of our chocolates are a mixture of both of them. And what Dad and I bring, it's very different to everybody else, is that we make all the designs and molds ourselves. So we carve everything by hand initially. We love Play-Doh, we love plasticine, and we actually use dentistry tools to carve designs in order to make all the small details. And so by making those molds ourselves means we're always different to everybody else. What we're offering is our creativity. And I never want to copy anybody else. So I'm very aware of that. And I want to make sure that everything that we do is completely unique to us and it's come out of our heads and so forth. So that makes us particularly different. And we have a patented process, which we filed right at the beginning. And had we known that we would still be here in 20 years, we probably would have done a worldwide patent. But the disadvantage of when you begin is you normally don't have much money.
Yeah.
So you pick your land, pick your country, as it were. And I think that should be changed. I think you should be allowed to add to your patent system, but I'm not sure they're going to listen to me as you grow and develop. But it's a very interesting process. So it's we were originally called chocolate on chocolate, and that's where we layer all the chocolates on top of each other to create the different effects that all of our designs have. And we actually changed the brand in 2008 to Choc on Choc. But actually, it was our local delivery depot couldn't be bothered to write with business post, which don't think even exist anymore. But we used to go in and they'd be like, it's Choc on Choc. And that's because they couldn't be bothered to write chocolate on chocolate every time we came in. And we were like, oh, I don't know if that's a good brand name. That's not our name. We're chocolate on chocolate. And then we realized that actually we could trademark Choc on Choc because we then created it as a word, whereas just the word chocolate on chocolate didn't give us that ability to do that. So it was a sort of a little accident that we became called Choc on Choc, but then it meant that we were able to trademark it and kind of own our language, as it were.
Wow, I'm loving this. There's so many questions already. being an engineer in my background and thinking how processes work, and going for patents myself in the past, not mine, but things I've built in companies have been patented. So, but we may come back to that definitely. So let's just think a little bit more about then your customers. So who are your typical clients? You know, how do you focus on them, and what do you try to strive for them?
Well, originally when we started, Dad was kind of very much going for his generation, his demographic, 60-year-olds with a sort of disposable income when we started, and he was developing designs like a tap. He said, in case they've got a plumber or we did a lovely watering can. He goes, maybe they might want a watering can for their gardener. And I was like, okay, well, not everyone's got a gardener, Dad. And he's imagining ladies of the manor. I don't know what was going on. So that's when I kind of introduced my kind of range. And back in 2003, the word funky was not as terrible as it is today. And so we had a funky range, and then we had the decorative range, which was kind of Dad's range, and then we had the funky range, and then it's just grown from there, really, in terms of the different designs. But actually, our demographic now, it appeals to everybody. We have anything from kits, melt and make kits, so you can roll your sleeves up, put your chef's hat on, and make chocolate at home. And then we've got the really beautiful chocolates. People we want chocolate food. So one of our best sellers is a chocolate breakfast. It's a fry up. Again, Dad loves a fry up, so I was like, let's make a chocolate fry up. So it's got a chocolate plate, toast, beans, mushrooms, bacon, everything's chocolate. And that sort of all the foodie kind of designs came about when we did the chocolate biscuit range. So the chocolate biscuits are all chocolate, but they look like biscuits. And we had spent the Christmas, as many of us do, with a selection tin of some description. And we'd eaten our way through bourbons and custard creams and party rings. And jammy dodgers, and we were like, what can we, these are so cool, they're so iconic. So we made them that January in chocolate, and it wasn't overthought. It was just, let's make this, they're just fun, let's make them in chocolate. And we put them out. At the time we were selling on the high street, we put them out on there, and we sold probably 5,000 plus units for Mother's Day, and we'd literally just sort of created them, and they fell in love with it. They put it on their homepage. And that's when we kind of realized that actually changing things that were something else, but making them chocolate, was like an absolute little gold mine. And because of our carving abilities and the way we make our molds, meant we could move quite fast. And then the ideas did not stop falling out of my head. That was about 2015. And avocados became terribly popular. I know they are now, but I've heard that peas on toast is the way forwards, because apparently avocados are out now. But back then, when we had obviously the initial avocado phrase, we made chocolate avocados, and I cannot tell you how many chocolate avocados we sold in 2016. And one evening, one meeting, I was asked, Dad always dreads it when I go to a meeting, because he's like, what is she going to come back with that I'm going to have to create? And I went to this meeting, and they said, we're looking for something for after dinner. I don't know what kind of things you do. And I was like, we've got the noughts and crosses. And then I was like, actually, we could make a chocolate cheese board. And they were like, really? And I was like, yeah. I'm always torn. I don't know about you, but I'm always torn at the end of a meal, because I want chocolate, but then it ruins the taste of my wine. But then I want cheese. And so we decided to make chocolate cheese, which still ruins my wine, but it sorts everything out. And so we created an oozy brie. It literally looks like the brie is about to come out, and we put a bit of icing sugar on the top, so you've got the sort of the waxy feel to it. We did an Emmentaler with goat's cheese, and we had a blue cheese as well. So using our patented process, we were able to get those veins inside the chocolate through our layering. And then we put it on a board that had all the names of the cheeses going around it, and it was a big ½ kilo worth of chocolate. Nice centerpiece, and we launched it just before Christmas, and we sold 1,000 a day in the run up to Christmas 2016. And you never want to say that as a business. You never want to turn down an order. And we were up all night, and it resembled some kind of crazy place here, but we got them out the door. And you just never know what's going to come out of a meeting.
So you talk about manufacturing and making them. So have you got a unit, a business? How's that work?
Yeah, so we originally started from home. We had a small barn on the side of, I say barn, was just a small room on the side of the house that sounds much nicer in editorial purposes. Small barn in Somerset. And we turned that into a room. We bought some chocolate machines from a company in Liverpool. We drove to Liverpool to pick them up. And they're very small. We didn't know how to make chocolate. We have completely taught ourselves. I've never been on a chocolate course, and I never intend to go on one because I think I'll just get all baffled. And at the end of the day, the main element that we need is the tempering process. And then everything else that we do is about the design and finish of the product. So we can manage that ourselves. And we had the chocolate machines in there, and then we moved to a bigger premises in 2007. And now we have 20 members of staff on the team. We do 70 tons of chocolate a year. And yeah, it's good fun. I've got an audit tomorrow, actually, a good old factory audit tomorrow. So. But these things are really important. They're good for they help you get different suppliers. So we're SALSA accredited. And that means that when we work with certain brands, you can then sell to them. The next level up is BRC. So these are all different things, but everything that I know, I've just learned on the job and through a need of needing to know. I'm not particularly good at reading a book and learning things in that sense. I'm a much more practical learner. And if I need to learn how to make my spreadsheet do what I need it to do, and actually it's algebra, but if you just told me it was algebra, I'd be sitting there saying, well, I don't do algebra. But once I know that I've got to get that cell to do that, to make that, and then work out the production, and I've got a reason to do it, then it's so much easier. And it's a joy to learn them, which I would never have said to my maths teacher.
Wow. And in the marketplaces at the moment, you've helped almost sort of develop some of the ideas in the marketplace, I'm sure, with the trends and stuff you develop. But what's going on in the marketplace for gift food and things? What are the trends at the moment?
There's a lot of trends for at the moment. Get with sustainability. People want to know, where the chocolates come from. One of the things that where we buy our chocolate from is we have a barcode on it where we can scan it, or QR code, sorry, scan it, and we can trace it right the way back to its origins, things like that, which we know that our consumers do like, and that's something that they're interested to know. But in terms of the actual what's happening out there, it's people are still wanting to gift other people, and people always will, as long as the price point is right. So if we start going over the £20 mark on a product, we know that sort of will slow down. People don't come to us for self-purchasing. They're not coming to eat something that I've made. They are coming to go, I need a gift. They're a doctor. I need a gift. They're a scientist. What have you got? And now that people kind of know that we have so much different and so many different designs, then I think that's why people we have a good retention of customers, because you're not always coming back for the same thing. Yeah. You're coming back to find the gardener a present. We do actually still have a gardener.
They still have that range.
Yeah, I don't even know why I said that. It's not even that popular. But we've got, all the teacher gifts, so which is great because you don't have to actually just have thanks teacher written on something. You can buy accordingly. So we've got the piano, we've got the solar system, we've got the chemist set, we've got miniature books, and all of these things mean that they can be slightly more personalised as a gift without writing their name on it, which we're all a bit over now.
So you started 20 years ago. You hadn't a clue what was chocolate. You went and bought some machines, and you self-taught in terms of doing things. So give some understanding over the last 20 years. What's gone right? What's gone wrong? Give some advice to some of our audience.
What's gone right? Let's start with what's gone right. So I think we have always taken it steady. We've worked with our gut. We've always gone, if we have to overwork something, generally it's not going to be a good product. We really have learned to listen to ourselves. We've laboured things and then gone, we put it into production, we put it out there, and we're like, nobody wants that because it doesn't work. It's almost like my energy isn't in it, and so therefore it's not shouting off the rooftops, so or the shop shelves. So we've decided, now to just listen to ourselves, be a bit more sensible in things like that. I think we've slowly grown. We haven't taken any kind of investment into the business. We've, everybody says, what's your 5-year plan, or what are you going to do in 5 years? And I don't know, every 5 years comes along and I'm like, well, I'm still having a great time. It's still working, we're still profitable, we're growing. And I think that's for me, the big key to it is that as long as all those things are in place and I'm still loving it, and Dad too, I think that there's no reason not to be doing it. There's areas obviously we can delegate now more to team leaders. One of the members of staff, I've got Stacey, she's been with me 20 years. So since she started, she was 17 when she came to us. And, it's lovely that we've got quite a few members of staff who are sort of 20 years, 19 years, 14 years in the business with us. And then we've got sort of obviously, we do have quite a high turnover of staff. It's a factory role. It can be very monotonous. And so these things do kind of, it's one of those jobs that will roll quite quickly. But at the end of the day, because of the designs that we make, it means we have the control over how it looks.
Yeah.
I'm not asking every person to come in and be able to mold a brie and, with their little hands and draw on chocolate beautifully. All of that's kind of managed by us. And the main role is to fill those molds and get the chocolates out looking beautiful without masses of air bubbles all over them and things like that. So that sort of makes our life a bit easier. And then, we've always had an online presence right from the beginning of the business. So from 2003, I had friends from school and uni who built websites. So I asked them to make me one. And we've always acted bigger than we are. And I don't think that's a bad thing to do. I think people think you're bigger than you are as well if you are convincingly, not in a cocky way, but in a way of, like having, we had printed bags years and years ago, but people just assumed that we were kind of like a big company that could afford these things. But there's always the ways around these things that you do without actually having to spend an awful lot. We built our websites ourselves, we make the molds ourselves, we do a lot ourselves. But that's also probably because we know exactly how we want it to be, maybe.
Yes. Well, it's the attention to detail that you bring with your knowledge and passion that actually is the bit that makes it look more impressive, but it is impressive. That's the thing. That's what I can see. I can see that passion in you and the way you talk about it in terms of doing that. So just talk about, one of the key things is finding the right staff. Some of you have got long-term staff with you and also short-term staff. So how do you go about sort of, now finding the right people to fit your business?
So it's really important because we're small. It's in our family home. So above where we bought, we've got an area, a house where Dad and Dorothy, my mum live. And it's in a beautiful village. We're just outside Frome. So we're in a lovely area. We've got good areas of staff around us as well. And they are kind of coming into our family, into our home, although downstairs is very factory-like, upstairs isn't. But we want everybody to kind of come in and get, I suppose you could call the flow experience, because at the end of the day, people are making chocolate, they're making it for us. We don't want it to be a big soulless corporation where they're just making things and nobody actually even knows who the person is who owns it or why they're making it. So, we try and make sure that we are ever present around and so on. Obviously, I can't be there every single day, but we do try and make sure that people know that they're making it for us and that we appreciate it. Because in the early days, I would make everything, invoice everything, and then go and sell it in the shop. So I have done all the roles, and I love that I've done all the roles because, then you kind of feel like you really know something when you're explaining it or talking to people. You've kind of got a real understanding of it. So, yeah, that's a good part for us.
I like that you said the flow experience. Yeah, I mean,
well, not dissimilar to listening to this podcast to talking to me. I mean, I've got friends who are in gyms and other places, and there's key members of the staff that they are going to be the people that give you the retention of staff. Yeah. And so if those people are really bringing them in and giving them that kind of good vibe experience, then people will stay potentially longer, or they will work with you rather than against you, because not everybody wants to work with you. Yeah. Some people quite like working against you. So trying to get people on board is the best thing that we can do. And Dad is here all the time. He's everybody's dad, so he's sort of like an agony aunt. So that's the lovely thing, that is what we are. We may have 20 members of staff, but we know everyone, and everyone knows us.
So over the years, you've moved, you make different mould, you've created different environments. How have you gone about sort of decision making there between your dad in terms of deciding what to do next and focus on?
He just listens to me. I've managed to get him to listen to everything. what I say, but I think there is a time, and I remember Dad saying, he said, there's a period of your life where you could be extremely creative. He said, when that moment comes, you'll know it's come, and it will be great. So just go with it, follow it, and take it. And I will, he said, I'm almost worried my creativity is dwindling. And then I did sort of clearly have my epiphany stage, so around about the age of 35. And really just coming up with the ideas, it was like I couldn't keep them in. I'd be driving up the motorway and I'd be back on the phone going, Dad, I just come up with another idea. We should make chocolate thermometers. And he's like, why? And I'm like, well, imagine putting a thermometer in your hand, and if it melts, it means to put a temperature and you should eat it. And he's like, right, let's do that. And so this is how we work. So this is where it has to have that enthusiasm behind it. We both have to want to make it, because Dad's got to carve it. And if he's not carving it with the kind of love or the excitement that I'm feeling, then it also falls flat. So we have worked that out quite quickly as well. So between the two of us, we have to both be on board. But generally, we're on board most of the time, more than we're off board, as it were.
And a business is, is a sum of the people working together to delight your customer, profitably, of course. If you talk about the design and the excitement around the creation of the product and the chocolate, but a business is a group of people. So how have you managed to sort of build the right structures, build, there are the rules that we all have to follow in manufacturing, specifically, even more in food manufacturing. How have you gone about dealing with the creation, the shaping of the business side then?
So I think really, a lot of it is common sense. And my mum did always say that if there was a fire when we were younger, she was like, I would leave you in charge. You would sort it all out, Flo. And I do think there's a huge element of that. I had worked in catering before. I'd worked in sort of like outdoor catering as well as in pubs and things like that. And so I had a kind of real understanding of what was needed in order to like have a kitchen, indoor, outdoor, and so on. And really just took those along. I phoned the environmental health. I phoned the local council. I got them involved in the process. There's nothing like a bit of brown nosing that won't get you in somebody's good books, but it does help. At the end of the day, you need these people with you, not coming around against you. And if you want to ask their suggestion of where you should put your sink, and they give you a suggestion, then it doesn't. At the end of the day, involving them actually helps you in the long run. And so when we moved to our new premises, I was very much like, right, this is what I'm thinking of doing. Do you have any thoughts? And sometimes they don't have any thoughts, and that was fine. And other times they just wanted a little change, and you could make it at that point. And then we've learned along the way how to do things. We've had mistakes, we've had failures. Originally we thought we all wanted to be chefs in a restaurant, put all of them up on a little chitty system like you do, and then pull them off when we've made them. And then we realized that we were making go back to the watering cans, 6 watering cans and 6 chocolate cheese boards and 6 biscuits. And then the next one we read wanted 8 of them. And then we were like, oh, we're just we're repeating ourselves, but not very logically. So then we built our own system where we added everything together. So I used to add it all together myself and say, right, we need to make 500 pieces of brie. So we need 500 Emmentaler, 500 that, oh no, there's a mouse, there's a board. And so we broke it all down, and then now we make it in a much more efficient manner. But all the way along, it's just been learning and just going, yeah, that doesn't work. Let's change it. Let's find another way to do it. And Stacey and I really love the problem solving aspect of how can we make that work. We've always had, traceability within the system, but once we never thought we did until we started doing all these, audits and things like that. And then we actually got this sort of gentleman to come in and help us. And he was like, you're already doing a lot of these things. You just didn't put them formally onto a piece of paper and write it all up. And I think that's where we kind of realized how much we had actually achieved until somebody came and sort of broke it all down and made it into an auditor's dream, as it were. Put it all out, and we were like, oh, actually we do have a raw matrix material. We just never called it that. We just called it stuff we use and things like that. So we haven't always had that business background, but I think not having that business or food knowledge background hasn't really prevented us from getting any further. I think the naivety of it has actually helped us grow faster and bigger, because we haven't got the expectation of, got to sit down and do all of these terrible things. Well, we thought it was logical to phone our supplier and make sure they were safe. But I appreciate not everybody is logical. And so that's why we have all these amazing systems now.
Wow. And I just want to pause there and reflect in terms of, you're always learning. There's always a better way. Well, a fantastic statement. I often use with my clients. I always talk about the word experiment. To me, the most powerful word in the world is the word experiment, because an experiment is just, you'll find out, you'll learn, and you'll grow from that. That sometimes it fails, sometimes it's successful. It's an experiment, and that's the real power of doing that. And I just love the way you've just brought that and articulated that in the way you've actually built a business, and that's fantastic. So brilliant. So cash is king. How do you keep an eye on cash and ensure that you can pay all the staff?
Yes, so cash is king for sure. I think we've always been sensible. We haven't, by doing everything we can ourselves. If I can be an electrician, I'll be an electrician. If whatever we need to do to keep things when we need to sorted. We did at one point have an overdraft with the bank. That was quite an effort to get, and then it got pulled away in 2008. Without us noticing. So we had a bit of a tricky time then while we just kind of had to re-sort ourselves out. And obviously, we also just rebranded the business to Choc on Choc, as I said earlier. And we were a bit like, oh, we just spent some money. We don't have an overdraft. And it was October. And we thought, well, I mean, it's nearly Christmas. And obviously then everything kind of crashed. But our chocolate business grew at that point, and not dissimilar to a lipstick sale. Chocolate makes you feel better. It's a low price item, and people still wanted to give something to other people and something that would make them feel better. So one of our things is we want it to look great, taste great. And we also had a chocolate called Chocolate to Make You Feel Better at the time. And we had a range called Dr. Indulgence as well. So that was all about the chocolate plasters, the emergency chocolate. And those kind of things just kind of resonated with people. And the business really, really sort of took off to a flying. It felt like a new start. It felt there was a lot more online activity taking place then. And it just, we had a big feature in the You magazine and things like that. And those kind of things just really help. Unintentional, didn't go out of our way to find it. I think that's probably the story of my life. It's all just happened.
And in terms of cash, how do you keep on top of cash? What systems you have in place?
So I'd set a cash flow for each year. I then work out each month. I look at the previous years, see what's coming in. Normally evaluate it. Crunch time for us can be over the summer. Spend a lot of time making in the summer for the Christmas orders. Christmas orders go out in September, and then you can have some orders that want 90 days for their payments. Some want 60, some are 30. And so you just need to manage it all coming back in. But because we have the online platform, that means that our website is continually selling. We're able to push that, and that money comes into the business straight away. The same as like Etsy, on the high street, or Amazon, all the places where we are, they all bring that in on a daily basis. So you are able to kind of manage it and control it a little bit better because of that. Whereas earlier in the business, we were always waiting on lump sums from big retailers. And at one point, we realized that we had too many eggs in one basket with a couple of retailers. And actually, if those two retailers fell off our top of our P&L, customer list, then that was a really big effect for the business, which is when I started to concentrate more on spreading ourselves out so that we had all these different platforms. Nobody was the dream customer because they do come and go, So you have to accept that. So rather than wait to go, at least we always had someone else sort of there, as it were. So.
Yeah. And then in terms of marketing, what works for you? What hasn't worked for you?
So works for us in terms of work. We do a lot. So we've always been on all platforms, social media wise. As soon as they've come out, I'm an early adopter. I will jump onto a platform if I see it. There's a couple of platforms we jumped onto, which is a trade site called Fair. We got onto that quite early, and actually we have really benefited from being on there because of algorithms and all sorts of things that now are in place, and doing great sales. And we were like, oh, and the gentleman I spoke to, he was like, yeah, it's because you got on it really early. And the same with Instagram. Obviously Threads, I signed up. I also signed up to the new things because I don't want somebody else to come along and steal my name, because then I have to ask for it back. So I jump on all sorts of things and then I give them a go. I have no idea. And I think for now, it would be very daunting to start a business because there's so many platforms, and knowing which one to get onto and then which one to give your time to. I think we've been lucky in the progression of them. Obviously, Facebook was the first. And for us, we sort of got on there. Facebook, whatever many years ago, it was now 12, 14 years, was just about posting little jokes about chocolate, oh, I eat my 5 a day because I eat a chocolate bean. And all this kind of silliness, whereas now Facebook is not so much that. Now you can actually really sell on there. So that's a good platform. Instagram is great. And I just teach myself how to use them, and I'm not too afraid of how to do it. And then sometimes I make a video. I made one last week, just chucked it up. I didn't really spend too much time thinking about it. And then, it's out there getting loads of likes and views. And I made a cake. I don't even make cakes. Made a cake, got 10,000 views, crushed some crisp bags in the oven. Don't ask me why. We did it when we were younger. 120,000 views. I'm like, I don't really know. So there's no rhyme or reason to it. And if I sit and plan something, it's normally the worst video in the world. So I have learned just to go with the flow. Excuse the pun. I have, because that is the best way. It gets the best results for me.
Brilliant. Is there anything about the industry that really frustrates you? If I gave you a magic wand, would you try and change?
Not so much the industry. I think it's taken a long time for people to see us as a serious business. I think I would like to change, and if I had a magic wand, I would change the terms of trade for small businesses. So say your turnover is under £3 million, you should be paid within 5 to 7 days. That's something I'm working on at the moment. I really want to campaign for that. And I do think it's important. Some of the big brands we work with, like Marks and Spencer's, Tesco's, they will pay us in 5 days. But then there's other huge brands and they're wanting 60 days. They want 5% marketing. That's fine. Give the big boys that. The big boys can do that. They've got 5% marketing. But us small people don't have that. And sometimes that bill coming in and out could be the decider of whether you're trading or not trading. So that would be a really good thing. Very important, I think, for business.
So you intimated that you don't have a 5-year plan because you just enjoy where you're going, everything else. But where do you fancy being in not just the business but yourself? What's the sort of 5-year thoughts?
Well, I mean, yes, every 5 years I've thought about the next 5 years. Then too short. But my son did say, we were on holiday this summer. He's just about to turn 13. He's called Charlie, and he doesn't like chocolate, so he'd rather I had a sweet factory. So. Can't please everyone, hey? Anyway, he was saying that if he started a football team, then you would need to go into all the lower leagues first and work your way up, he said. And when you get to about 19 years, you probably could make it to the Premier League. But that's how long it takes you to get there. That is the process. He said, well, you're coming into your 20th year, mummy. And he said, maybe you could be in the Premier League. And I was like, yeah, maybe I could be in the Premier League. And by that, I think what he meant is what I actually think I want to do is have a product that's not completely handmade. It's almost like, you have Tesco Finest and then you have Tesco Value. That's too bigger end on it. But I want to have some kind of product that could be more mainstream, that is our product. So we are working with a couple of manufacturers in the hope that we can bring a couple of Choc on Choc items really out there as everyday items, but still us, and then we've still got all our beautiful range that's made here, and it won't put pressure on the business. It won't put pressure on me to go and build another factory or scale up even more, because sometimes the scaling up bit is not necessarily what we need, and you can do it because it's egotistically is wonderful, right? And it's just great, but is it really what this business needs? I would say it isn't. I would say we need to keep doing what we're doing and doing it even better until it's so smooth, like it just happens, which is how it's sort of feeling now downstairs in the business. And then maybe have something that we can take us a little bit further into that Premier League without affecting everything else. So watch the space.
Wow. Well, Flo, off into the Premier League. Thank you so much for a fantastic conversation that we've had, starting 20 years ago in terms of the building of the business and the first ideas out of university, working with your dad, creating a patent. Wow, that's brilliant. From early on in terms of that, that's not a lot of businesses can really think about that and have that structure. That whole passion that you bring to making chocolate. I can see it in everything you've said. My audience can't see this video, but it's written in your face. You light up every time you talk about that. And your role, chief chocolate lady, it epitomizes everything that you've just said in terms of doing things. But, the journey moved on in terms of the growth, starting off buying chocolate, working it out yourself, working out how to make a business run, working out how to find the right people to join your business. And you've demonstrated that by how people have remained such long-term with you as well as short-term people. And I love the idea that, suddenly you came up with the idea of making a cheese board and sold over 1,000 a day just before Christmas. And how much that pain that brought you, but you then optimized and improved. And you have that passion, not just for chocolate, not just for creating ideas, but you have that passion to experiment, to have a go. Nothing holds you back. And that's actually one of my key things. I always say experimentation is key in everything in life, especially in business life. And you demonstrate that. You demonstrate that with your father. You demonstrate with that business. And that's been a real key takeaway for me, that anything can happen. Just have a go and experiment and find out in terms of doing that. So thank you, Flo, for a fantastic conversation. We always finish off with a quick fire round, if I may. So if you go back to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
Feel the fear and do it anyway. I would just get on with it.
Brilliant. Any books? You did say you don't read very much, but any books you recommend?
Oh, I do read. I read an awful lot of terrible chick lit. I just don't read any business books. My husband sits and reads those. I enjoy books that are just take me away, just take me out of work. So anything, as from Cecilia Ahern to all the sort of Lisa Jewell books. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I do a lot of driving. So sometimes I listen to a book with that time in my ear.
Yes, and that's when sometimes you come with your creative ideas while driving, isn't it? We were talking about that earlier on. Podcasts, any podcasts you love?
Yes, I do. I listen to Spencer and Vogue. They make me laugh a lot. I don't know why. I think it's just light relief. I listen to Steph at Don't Buy Her Flowers. I think that some of those are really useful. Talks a lot about being a mum, especially like me, and overwhelm and all the things that we all try and do. Really enjoy all sorts of different podcasts.
On your mobile phone, is there any apps that make a difference for you?
Oh, well, I use WhatsApp as if it was like a surgically attached to my finger. That's how we do a lot of business chat, weirdly, because I'm not always at the factory. But I enjoy taking photos, editing them, and I do all the photos for the business. So I actually just use my phone. I used to do professional photography. Someone else would do it, and I would style. And now I just love using my phone and doing it myself and cracking on. The faster the better.
Brilliant. My favorite question of all: who's had the most influence on you as a business leader?
My dad has, to be honest. I think everything that he has done is just, he listens, but he also gives advice. And I think sometimes we forget to listen. We just talk all the time like I do. So I'm trying to learn to listen.
And an extra question for me. So how do you manage overwhelm then?
Just lists. I love lists. My mum has always been an advocate of lists, and I think that is the best way for me to do it. I separated up my notebook. I seem to feel like it was the most novel idea and put sections in it. But I used to just write in my notebook and it would just be pages and pages of notes, and there was never any clarity. So now I have a to-do section, I have a new product section, I have a PPC section for online, and they all sound very simple and logical. But like most things, it all just boils down to a little bit of common sense to get clarity. Once you've got the clarity, you can do anything.
Oh, I agree. I love the getting things done approach by
Yes.
David Allen. So brilliant. Finally, Flo, how can people get hold of you?
So the website is choconchoc.co.uk. We're sold in lots of lovely retailers like Ocado. We're sold on Selfridges and lots of farm shops and delis. If you would like to, we have a code. You could use BizSmart, and that will give you 15% off any orders. And we hope that you will go and have a look at the website. Currently on there are chocolate fingers, my very own fingers, moulded in chocolate for Halloween, along with many, many other fun things. So yeah, take a look if you have a few minutes and let me know what you think.
Oh, Flo, thank you so much for this amazing conversation today. And we've really been inspired for listening to your journey for the last 20 years.
Thank you very much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.